Good morning students. Welcome back to our educational channel. In our previous section, we started with chapter 4, the structure of the atom. So, we will just revise the important concepts of the chapter. In the previous session, we have discussed about the matter. We have discussed about the subatomic particles, that is protons which are positively charged and electrons which are negatively charged. So, protons are discovered by Goldstein scientist, and whereas J.J. Thomson discovered electrons. So, because of the discovery of these subatomic particles, Dalton's theory of atomic model got failed. Then various scientists, they proposed their various models. In that we have seen about J.J. Thomson's model of an atom and Rutherford's model of an atom. We have discussed about the experiment carried out by Rutherford, which is also called as scattering experiment. In that he took a gold foil and he made the fast moving alpha particles to fall on the gold foil. Then he made observations. What he observed was most of the alpha particles passed straight without any deflection. From that he concluded that most of the space in the atom is empty. His second observation was he saw very few alpha particles got deflected from their original path. So, he said that protons, that is positively charged particles, are present in very small space. His third observation was some alpha particles, that is one alpha particle out of every 12,000 alpha particles passed back, means they rebound, which concluded that the protons are concentrated in a very small space, which is called as nucleus. So, the nucleus of the atom is very small as compared to the size of the atom. So, he calculated, he found that the nucleus is about 10⁵ times smaller than the total size of the nucleus. Now, let us see the drawbacks of Rutherford's model of the atom. The revolution of the electron in a circular orbit is not expected to be stable. Any part in a circular orbit would undergo acceleration. So, during the acceleration, charged particles would radiate energy, and if the charged particles, that is electrons, would radiate energy, then they would lose energy and finally fall into the nucleus. Okay. So, thus the revolving electron would lose energy and finally fall into the nucleus. Now, if this were so, the atom should be highly unstable, but we know that atoms are stable. But according to this, the atoms should be highly unstable, and hence matter would not exist in the form that we know. but we know that atoms are quite stable. That means Rutherford was unable to explain about the stability of the atoms. So, the stability of the atom is not explained by Rutherford. So, what he said that electrons revolve in circular orbits, that means if electrons revolve in circular orbit means they undergo acceleration. If they undergo acceleration, then they radiate energy. If they radiate energy means they lose energy, and if they lose energy means they finally fall in the nucleus. If they fall into the nucleus, then the atom becomes unstable, but actually the atoms are quite stable. So, why the atoms are quite stable? Why they do not fall in the nucleus was not explained by Rutherford. So, this was very important drawback of the Rutherford's model of the atom. So, after that the next scientist, Niels Bohr, he proposed his model. So, let us see about Bohr's model of atom. In order to overcome the objections raised against Rutherford's model of the atom, Niels Bohr put forward the postulates about the model of an atom. So, because of the objections raised against Rutherford's model of the atom, Niels Bohr, he proposed his model of the atom and he put forward the postulates about his model. What he said that only certain special orbits known as discrete orbits of electrons are allowed inside the atom. So, this is the first postulate of Bohr's model of atom. What he said that inside the atom, around the nucleus, there are some special orbits which are known as discrete orbits. Only certain orbits are allowed inside the atom. While revolving in discrete orbits, the electrons do not radiate energy. So, this was not explained by Rutherford, but what Bohr said that while revolving in discrete orbits, the electrons do not radiate energy. These orbits or shells are called as energy levels. So, the orbits or shells of the atom are nothing but the different energy levels. Now, these shells are represented by the letters K, L, M, N and so on, and whereas these shells are also called as orbits. Orbits are represented by the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on. So, an orbit is represented by a letter N. So, N is equal to 1 means it is the first orbit. N is equal to 2 is the second orbit, N is equal to 3 is the third, N is equal to 4 is the fourth orbit and so on. So, he said that there are special orbits which are known as discrete orbits of electrons in the atom, in which the electrons revolve, and while revolving they do not radiate energy. So, as they do not radiate energy means they do not lose energy. As they do not lose energy means they do not fall into the nucleus. So, this objection of Rutherford's experiment was overcome by this postulate of Bohr's model of the atom. So he said that these orbits or shells are also called as energy levels. Shells are represented by the letters K, L, M and N. That means K is the first shell, L is the second, M is the third shell, N is the fourth. Similarly, these are also called as orbits, which are numbered as 1, 2, 3 and 4. You can see here a few energy levels in an atom are shown. This is the nucleus at the center. So, every atom has a nucleus at its center. In this nucleus there are protons. That means nucleus is positively charged. Around the nucleus you can see there are discrete orbits in which the electrons revolve. Now, this is the first orbit which is called as K shell, that is N is equal to 1 means first orbit. Then the second one is L shell, the orbit number is 2. The third orbit is M shell, orbit number is 3 and the fourth orbit is also called as N shells. So, after seeing about protons and electrons, that is positive and negative particles of the atom, the third type of subatomic particle is neutrons. Let us discuss about neutrons. Neutrons are discovered by scientist J. Chadwick in the year 1932. So, it is another subatomic particle which had no charge. So, we have seen that protons are positive, electrons are negative and whereas neutrons are having no charge. What he discovered that neutrons had no charge and a mass nearly equal to that of a proton. So, according to Chadwick, the mass of neutrons is nearly equal to the mass of protons. He named these third subatomic particles as neutrons. Neutrons are present in the nucleus of all atoms except hydrogen. So, neutrons are also present in the nucleus along with protons, but hydrogen is an exceptional case. Hydrogen does not have any neutrons. A neutron is represented as N. We have seen before protons are represented by P plus, where plus indicate the positive charge. Electrons are represented as E minus, where minus sign indicates negative charge, and whereas here neutrons are represented as N and you can see there is no plus or minus charge, means neutrons do not have any charges. The mass of an atom is therefore given by the sum of the masses of protons and neutrons present in the nucleus. So, protons and neutrons both are present in the nucleus, and that is why the mass of the atom is given by the mass of protons plus the mass of neutrons. Now, after seeing about the third subatomic particle, that is neutrons, let us see how are electrons distributed in different orbits or shells. We have seen that electrons revolve in discrete orbits or in shells. But how are these electrons get distributed? What are exactly the number of electrons in each orbit? So, let us discuss about this. Distribution of electrons, which is also called as electronic configurations. The maximum number of electrons present in a shell is given by the formula 2n square, where n represents the orbit number or the energy level. So, by using this formula 2n square, we can find the maximum number of electrons present in a shell or in a orbit. N is the orbit number or the energy level. Hence, the maximum number of electrons in different shells are as follows. The first orbit means n is equal to 1, which is also called as K shell, is 2n square. So, in this you have to substitute the value of n as 1. So, it is 2 into 1 square. The square of 1 is 1. So, 2 multiplied by 1, that is 2, means the first orbit can hold maximum of 2 electrons. So, the capacity of first orbit or K shell is to hold maximum 2 electrons. If it holds these 2 electrons, it completes its duplet. Now, let us see the capacity of holding of electrons by second orbit, which is also called as L shell. So, as I have told that you have to use the formula 2n square. Now, this is the second orbit. So, in this formula you have to put the value of n is equal to 2. So, this is 2 into n square, means here n is 2. So, it is 2 square. The square of 2 is 4. 4 multiplied by 2 is 8, means the second shell, that is L shell or the second orbit, can hold maximum of 8 electrons. So, when these 8 electrons get filled in the L shell or second orbit, it completes its octet. Now, the third orbit or M shell holds total of 18 electrons. So, in the formula put n is equal to 3. 3 square is 9 multiplied by 2, that is 18. So, the capacity of M shell, that is third orbit, is to hold maximum of 18 electrons. The fourth orbit, that is n is equal to 4 or N shell, holds 32 electrons. So, here the value of n is equal to 4. 4 square is 16. 16 multiplied by 2, you will get 32. So, the capacity of the first orbit is to hold 2 electrons, second orbit is to hold 8 electrons, third orbit is to hold 18 and the fourth orbit is to hold 32 electrons and so on. The maximum number of electrons that can be accommodated in the outermost orbit is 8. That means, even if the capacity of the orbits are to hold different number of electrons like 18, 32 and so on, but when they hold 8 electrons, they become stable. So, maximum 8 electrons can be accommodated in the outermost orbit. Electrons are not accommodated in a given shell unless the inner shells are filled. Means the shells are filled in stepwise manner. Now for example, if suppose there are 5 electrons, then the first orbit gets filled, that means out of 5 the 2 electrons get occupied in the first orbit, and then the remaining 3 electrons go in the second shell, second orbit. So the electron gets filled in a stepwise manner. Now this distribution of electrons in stepwise manner is called as electronic configuration. So let us discuss about the electronic configuration of first 18 elements. So look at these figures. This is the first element named hydrogen. Hydrogen has only one electron which is there in the first orbit. The second element is helium, which has 2 electrons which get occupied in the first orbit. As I have told that the first shell can hold maximum of 2 electrons. Now the third element is lithium. Lithium has 3 electrons. So as electrons get filled in stepwise manner, so out of these 3 electrons, first 2 electrons get filled in the first orbit, and after filling the first orbit, the remaining electron get occupied in the second orbit. The next element is beryllium with 4 electrons. So electronic configuration of beryllium is 2, 2. 2 electrons in the first shell and remaining 2 electrons in the second shell. The fifth element is boron with 5 electrons. So how they are distributed? 2 and 3. 2 go in first shell and remaining 3 in the second shell. In the same way, carbon has 4 electrons, so its electronic configuration is 2 and 4. Next element is nitrogen with 7 electrons. So its electronic configuration is 2 and 5. Next is oxygen with total 8 electrons. So how are these 8 electrons distributed? 2 and 6. The ninth element is fluorine with 9 electrons. So the distribution is 2 and 7. Next one is a neon with 10 electrons. So if you look at the structure of neon, you will find there are 2 electrons in the first orbit and remaining 8 electrons are in the second orbit. That means in the neon, both the orbits are completely filled. So the second orbit has 8 electrons which is completely filled. That means here neon attains an inert gas configuration, means it becomes stable. So the next element, sodium with 11 electrons, get arranged in the 3 shells. Why? Because 10 electron get occupied in 2 shells, then the 11th electron go in the third shell, that is M shell. Similarly, magnesium with 12 electrons, the electronic configuration is 2, 8, 2. So there are 2 electrons you can see in the figure. So these 2 electrons are in the last orbit. Aluminium with 13 electrons get occupied again in 3 shells as 2, 8 and 3. Similarly, silicon as 2, 8 and 4. Phosphorus, 15 electrons are there in all. So its distribution of electrons is 2, 8 and 5. Sulfur 2, 8, 6. chlorine 287, and the 18th element is argon with 18 electrons. So, the first shell has 2 electrons, the second shell has 8 electrons, and the third shell has again 8 electrons. Means here again the third shell is also completely filled. That means all the shells are completely filled in argon, which makes it inert. So, argon is an inert gas. So, in these 18 elements you can see helium, neon and argon. These are inert elements as their shells are completely filled. So, now let us discuss about valency. The electrons present in the outermost shell of an atom are known as valence electrons. So, what are valence electrons? These are the electrons present in the outermost shell of an atom. The outermost shell of an atom can accommodate a maximum of 8 electrons. So, if the outermost shell of an atom is completely filled, as we have seen in the examples of helium, neon and argon, that the outermost shells are completely filled, then the element is said to be inert. So, helium, neon, argon are some of the examples of inert elements, and their valency is 0. As these shells are completely filled, valency becomes 0. Of these inert elements, the helium atom has 2 electrons in its outermost shell, and all other elements have 8 electrons in their outermost shell. So, only helium has 2 electrons in its outermost shell, as helium has only 2 electrons which get occupied in the first shell, while remaining all other inert elements have 8 electrons in their outermost shells. An outermost shell which had 8 electrons was said to possess an octet. So, an outermost shell which had only 2 electrons was said to possess duplet, whereas an electron was said to possess 8 electrons is called as an octet. Atoms would thus react so as to achieve an octet in the outermost shell. So, atoms wants to become stable, they wants to achieve the octet. So, for that they undergo different reactions. So, what they do, they share, gain or lose electrons. Now, the number of electrons gained, lost or shared so as to make the octets of electrons in the outermost shell gives the combining capacity of the element, that is called as valency. So, what is a valency? It is nothing but the combining capacity of an element. So, the number of electrons gained, lost or shared so as to make the octet of electrons in the outermost shell gives the combining capacity of the element, that is called as its valency. Means valency of different elements is different. So, today what we have discussed in our session, that the drawbacks of Rutherford's experiment, then Bohr's atomic model, then how the electrons get distributed in different shells, and at last valency. So, today you are going to draw the structure of first 18 elements. We will continue in the next section. Thank you.